fix the skate. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. They're thinking about it. I'm seeing a little bit of movement down there, but they might just be going to get a drink of water. I can't tell. I feel like today they should want to move. As I'm looking at this pasture here, you can see that the grass is mostly in two stages. It's either tall, headed out, which, you know, the palatability goes down at that stage, so they say, or the grass is nibbled down pretty close to the ground. So what they're telling me here is that they are doing selective grazing and only grazing the stuff that they like, and then they're leaving this tall, mature stuff because they know they're not that hungry. They don't need to eat it yet. Come on, guys, let's go. New pasture awaits. Let's do it. Come on, boys. When we get done here at the steer pasture, my goal for today is to just get a few things finished that I've already started. The first thing is I would like to get the rest of the posts cemented into the ground on the new corral fence. And then I need to get finished mowing the front field so that I can start the water out there tonight. Because I know these are things that you guys have already seen before, I thought we'll mix it up a little bit today. And while I'm doing these things, I'll also be doing a question and answer. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. One question that I got asked was about the Redmond garlic salt blocks. If you guys remember, the past couple of years, I've been using those exclusively for fly control. And now this year, as you all have seen, I've been using the Fussel Farms Cow Sprayer. And I guess what maybe I haven't showed well enough is that I am still using the Redmond garlic salt blocks. If you remember in the past, I had told you guys that my conclusion with the salt blocks was that I thought they slowed the fly load in the spring, but by late summer, usually the flies were still able to take hold. The garlic salt blocks were never intended to be a cure-all for fly control. They're more meant to be used as an addition to a fly program that you've already got going on. The big difference between the salt blocks and between the cow sprayer is that the garlic salt blocks repel the flies and the cow sprayer kills the flies that are actually there. Once you have an established fly population, it's really hard to control them with a repellent, and you're just not gonna beat the effectiveness that you will get from a contact kill, which is what the cow sprayer gives you. We're back out here at the corral fence now, and if you saw the last video, then you know I've only got these last 3 posts here that need concrete in the holes to get them set in the right spot. And once that is all done, then we'll be ready to start doing some welding out here. And that brings me to another question that was asked, and to summarize, basically the person was wanting to know about the materials I'm using, the layout, more of, I guess, kind of like a how-to guide or exactly what I am doing here. I know a lot of you don't care. You just see, hey, he's building the fence, nice. But some of you might be watching this saying, I want to build a fence exactly like that. And in order to do that, I need to know a little bit more information. And honestly, this could probably be an entire video in itself. So I'll just kind of try to hit the main bullet points. For this fence, the upright or the posts that I'm using are 2 7/8 oil pipe, which you might from time to time hear me refer to as 2 7. Sometimes 2 3/8, you just call it 2 3, you know, just, I guess that's my generation. That's what we do. We shorten everything because we just don't have time to talk. But I'm using 2 7/8 as the posts, and then the horizontal pipe is 2 3/8. So when you're building a corral, there's kind of like 2 different fence lines that you might make. And One is a fence line designed for crowding, and one is a fence line designed for holding. So for me, my holding fences in my corral, the posts are all spaced 10 feet apart. This new fence is no exception to that rule, except for one spot, and that is down here where the fence starts to funnel into the gate. These posts are a little bit closer together, and honestly, the reason that these are closer together is just to make the spacing come out even. But I wanted to put the closer together posts down here on this end because this is sort of the end of the funnel, and if anybody wants to start getting weird or turn around or bump a fence, it's probably going to be down here. As the cattle come through this short alley here that leads to the working corral, I mean, this is a mess right now. It's kind of honestly embarrassing to show on camera how bad this looks. When I do rebuild this, I'll put my post probably on an 8-foot spacing or maybe even a 6-foot spacing, because this is going to be really congested, and this is more of a crowding fence. The cattle walk through here. You guys have seen it. The whole herd comes through here at once. So you know shoulders are rubbing on these fence lines, and if somebody gets a mind to turn around, these can really take a beating right here. So really, to sum all that up, when you're designing a corral, you just have to think about how the animals are going to flow through it and the different spots where they're going to be feeling a lot of pressure from you and where they're not, and then you just kind of adjust your design accordingly. Each post is taking about 3 50-pound bags of fence post concrete, and that seems to be working out just about right. And I believe these post holes are somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 foot deep. Okay, I was wrong. That one was 29 inches. And that one's about 30 inches. So I mean, when I said in the neighborhood of 3 feet, that's not exactly wrong, but really a lot more like 2.5 feet. With standalone posts, I would want to do more like a 3 foot or even deeper hole, but you got to remember these posts are all going to be welded together with 5 pipes each, so they're going to be pretty tied together anyway, and I think a 2.5 foot hole will be plenty. You might notice that the length of the posts vary a little bit, and that's just a function of because they are used oil pipe. Those lengths are not always consistent. Typically, the pipe comes in around 31 feet, but it could be less or more than that by several inches. So what I do to haul it on my trailer is I cut the pipe in half, knowing that it's probably somewhere around 15.5 feet. And then when I cut that in half again, I've got a just shy of 8 foot long post. So some of these lengths are because that's the length that I want, and then some of them are because I'm trying to make the most out of my materials. If I have a 31-foot stick of 2 7/8 pipe, I could get 3 perfect 8-foot posts out of it, and then I would have a 7-footer left over. So rather than have 3 perfect posts and 1 post that's too short, I'll split that difference across all 4 of them. So would that be like 7 3/4 foot, which would be 9 inches? Next question is, do I like working alone, or if the opportunity presented itself, would I like to have an employee? Initially, my answer to this question was just a simple yes. I do prefer to work alone, but as I started thinking about it more, there's a little more to it. When I was younger and first kind of taking things over out here, I remember that I always would have a friend or two come over to help me work cows or do, odd jobs around the ranch, and I didn't do all that much by myself. As time went on, I started to notice that, you couldn't always get people when you needed them, and a lot of times just things pop up, and you might realize that you need to get a cow up in the corral immediately, and you don't have time to call somebody, or you can't expect people to just drop everything that they're doing to come and help. So because of all this, a while ago I decided that I should at least be able to do everything by myself. I should be set up to where I could work the entire herd through the corral by myself. And what I kind of learned is, like, the more things you figure out how to do by yourself, the more things you figure out how to do by yourself, if that makes sense. Grandpa never had help. He did everything by himself too. And I mean, I guess you could say I helped him, but let's be honest. When I was a child, probably up to the point of being a younger teenager, I'm sure I was no help at all. I'm sure I slowed him down more than anything, but he was able to train me in those years to get me to where I am today. And I kind of envision a version of that happening with myself. I think when my kids are old enough to start helping, if they are interested in working out here, then I'll definitely show them the ropes. Well, I'm sure the GoPro won't do it justice, but these posts are done and they came out really good. They are nice and straight. There is one that's about 3/16 of an inch off of the string, but the rest of them are all touching or right there. So it came out pretty much perfect. It feels good to have that done, but I think I will give the concrete a few days to set up before I start welding the horizontal pipe in. And that is going to be quite the job. Since you have a flat face, which would be the end of the horizontal pipe, mating up to a round face, which would be the side of the vertical post, you're going to end up with giant gaps unless you cope, saddle, notch. It all means the same thing. You're basically making a curved cut there so that that flat face is no longer flat and it can butt up perfectly to the round face of the post. I've got an idea of how I'm going to do this, but we're going to get into that in another video. And even the way that I'm thinking, it's still going to be a lot more work, but I think it will work okay. So, building a pipe fence like this, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of work, but if you do it right, you only have to do it once. This mower hooks up so easy, but getting it off is a totally different story. I just have to say, I've noticed the last couple of days it's really starting to feel like fall. And if you ask me what do I mean by that, it's very difficult to put into words, but I think what it is the weather is changing a little bit, but also the rice is completely headed out now and it smells different. And I think just every year of my life, that's kind of what happens right before fall. Sometimes I look at this field and I wonder, like, how long would it take me to eat that much rice? And I just was starting to think about it. A decent yield for a rice field would be 80 sacks per acre. A sack is 100 pounds. So what is that? 8,000 pounds of rice per acre? I don't know. I think maybe 1 acre is a lifetime supply for me. Next question is, was quitting my job to be on the farm full-time working out the way that I had hoped? The short answer to that is yes. The slightly longer answer to that is, when I quit my job, my main motivations were to be able to be with my family more, and also to be able to do what I love to do. And I have accomplished those two things. I get to work on the ranch and the hay field every single day, and I get to see my family every single day as well. And rather than just catching a glimpse of them in the morning before I leave and a glimpse of them in the evening when I get home before they go to bed, I actually get to spend, I would say, at least some quality time with them every single day, and some days quite a bit. Last question, and I was surprised how often this came up, but people have been asking about this tractor. What's going on with the tractor? Well, I think when I started this project, I had a lot of time to work on it, and here in the last couple of months, I just haven't, because the weather has warmed up and things are going, so I haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to this old girl. But I still have full intentions of finishing this tractor and doing everything that I set out to do with it, but I just don't have the time to work on it right now. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. I know I didn't even scratch the surface or come near to answering all of them, so we might do another video like this in the near future. But until then, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.